Hi, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Matthew. And welcome to the beer styles and beer tasting portion of your training videos. Today we're going to be talking about American Pale Ales. American Pale Ale is a unique style. It's been developed from the traditional parent style of the English or European Pale Ale. However, it's got very many different qualities to it than what you'll typically find in a traditional English Pale Ale. Foremost of those differences is the usage of high amounts of hopping and also the use of specific American style hops. Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit something about this particular beer that we're trying today?
Well, today, as you've probably already noticed, I'm sure you can recognize it just by looking at it, we have the OG, means original gravity, of American Pale Ales in Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Now, this comes from the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company out of Chico, California. They've been around a long time. Not only have they been around a long time, but they were the pioneers of American craft brewing, along with Anchor and New Albion coming out of California. New Albion's no longer around in its original form, but Anchor is still around, and Sierra Nevada not only is still around, but they are pretty much thriving. Now, when you talk about an American Pale Ale, pretty much what you're talking about is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Now, this is dry hopped, which was extraordinary at the, for the time that it was developed. This recipe was begun to be tinkered around with by Ken Grossman, who's one of the founders of Sierra Nevada, around the late 70s, and it was released commercially available in pretty much more or less its present-day form in 1980. It clocks in at 5.6% ABV, so it's kind of right in the middle. It's got a nice bright hop characteristic, a nice bright taste that a lot of American Pale Ales now try to copy. A lot of times it's with dry hopping with different types of hops.
And it's more the American style of hops. I believe this uses Magnum, Pearl, and it's dry hopped with Cascade, all of which are American style hops, which are very different from the English style of hops.
That's right. If you're talking about an English style pale ale, not only are you talking about less hopping, but when you talk about the kind of hops that are used with English style pale ales, they predominantly use English style hops. Makes sense, right?
Sure.
They impart more of an earthy, floral, I believe you said potpourri. You've described it as potpourri bouquet.
Potpourri, flowers. They have a lot lower levels of alpha acid, which is that natural bittering flavor. Whereas American hops tend to really thrive in that big bitter, citrus, and piney realm. So,
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and try this one.
Thought you'd never ask. Now, I remember when I was in college, Matthew, I grabbed, remember Cash and Carry? I don't even know if they're around anymore, but I grabbed a Create Your Own 6-pack at Cash and Carry, and I remember being in my room trying this beer and spitting it out because I thought it was so incredibly bitter.
I had a very similar experience.
No one could ever drink this, and now I love this beer. Wow, look at the head develop on that. Go ahead and describe the color while I finish pouring my beer.
Yeah,
you're the beer pouring expert.
A very nice golden, moderate, mild amber color to it. There's some nice peach highlights. It's not completely clear. There are a little bit of sediments floating around, which is absolutely appropriate because this beer is bottle conditioned. Which gives it just a tight bit of dullness to it. It's not completely clear and polished like we'd see in some other examples of the style.
Mm-hmm. But that's not a bad thing. That also can lead to a more robust flavor that might change a little bit depending on if you drink it right when it was packaged or hold on to it maybe a month. Obviously, this is not a beer you shouldn't age beers either. Not a good idea. This is not a beer that you should age because of the dry hopping characteristics. The older the beer is, the more those hops are going to fade in the background. And you're really drinking this beer because of its nice, bright hop character.
Absolutely.
All right.
Also, we've got a really nice, creamy and frothy head, really well developed here. It kind of sticks around and lingers. Pretty nice retention on that, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. I see some what I call floaties in the beer. Now, that's yeast, right? Residual yeast from it being bottle conditioned.
Yep, very small yeast particles. It doesn't mean that your glass is dirty or that there's things in your beer. I mean, there are things in your beer, but those things are what makes beer beer, that being the yeast, which is the catalyst to convert your sugar into alcohol. So the fact that we have little floaties, as Aaron likes to term them, which is also pretty much a technical term. That's actually quite desirable in this beer in particular, and also for many other beers in this style.
Matthew, can we smell this beer now?
Please.
Thank you. Wow, yeah. The hops really pop out at you.
Yep, that's right. That's right in the front. That's certainly the main attraction of this beer.
Mm-hmm. It almost smells like an American IPA, which it's not. It's a pale ale, so it's a toned down version of IPAs. But because it's dry hopped, and we'll probably get into dry hopping in a second. But because it's dry hopped, it really gives you that punch of hop aroma, and I'm presuming flavor when we taste it, right at the very front.
Sure, and by hop aroma, we're pulling out specific notes here. We've got nice grapefruit, a little bit of like a lemon pith, and pith is that fleshy white part between the flesh and the rind of citrus fruit. There's also touches of pine too. It almost smells like you're walking through like a citrus grove, where you've got that woodiness and also the fresh and ripe fruit.
Yeah, and that's characteristic of American hops. All that fruit, all these fruity notes that we're talking about. There's no fruit in this beer. Don't take it that way. But the way that the hops are used, and because they use these specific types of American hops, those notes that we're getting aren't by accident. Beers like this are designed to give you that floral, piney, resiny aroma and taste without actually adding any fruit.
Let's go ahead and taste it.
Cheers. I can't believe I spit this beer out the first time I had it.
Yeah, it's really well done. You can certainly tell, I mean, right up front, it follows the nose where you get that piney, citrusy, really nice hop aroma or hop flavors to it. Moderate bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's definitely bitterness there, but it's not overwhelmingly dry. And it seems that there's a pretty sturdy and supportive malt backbone to it. Even though it doesn't really come through in the aroma so much, you can really feel its presence in the body of the beer.
Yeah, I think sometimes that malt component gets lost when you're talking about something like an American IPA or an American Pale Ale. A lot of times people forget that in order to support this nice hop aroma and taste, that you have to have a solid malt backbone to kind of take you through the entire arc of the beer. And it's a very tight beer. There's no flaws in it that I can taste. It's on and off the palate very quickly. It's got a little bit of a dry finish on it, which I think is remarkable for this. One of the reasons why I think that's remarkable is because it makes the beer so drinkable. Now, as I think I said before, this is 5.6%, which isn't a whole lot, but it's not a whole little either. So it's kind of right there in the middle, but it's a very, very drinkable 5.6%. I'd almost say this could even be a football beer.
Sure. Well, especially for people that are used to the style. Mm-hmm. Now, for folks, and Aaron had mentioned the first time he ever tried this beer that he almost spit it out. I had a very, very similar experience. For somebody that's not really ever been exposed to a beer that's very hop forward in its flavor profile or aroma profile, it can be somewhat off-putting. But for people that have a little bit more experience with it, you really start to see some of the balance and start to really understand how very well crafted this beer is. I mean, there's a reason why it stood, the test of time, and why this is really considered to be the quintessential American Pale Ale.
That's true, and I'm really excited. I love this brewery. I'm really excited for Sierra Nevada that they're expanding out to the East Coast. Mm-hmm. They're doing that along with quite a few other breweries now. Stone just announced that it's going to Berlin.
Sure.
I think they're going to build an East Coast-ish brewery as well. Mm-hmm. But they're really all about getting this product to the consumers sooner as well. Absolutely. So you would think that it's really nice that we've come to a point where beer makers have said, you know what, I really don't even want to wait a week for this to be shipped from California to Florida, for example, where we are now. Let's just build an East Coast brewery so we can get into the hands of consumers maybe a week or two earlier. It's just, it's a great story. I love this beer. I hope this beer survives on in perpetuity. No reason right now to say that it won't. What kind of guest would enjoy this beer?
Typically your guest that's already been introduced to craft beer as a whole, usually hop forward styles of beer, for instance, an American Pale Ale, usually aren't the very first type of beer that a guest is going to enjoy. But for somebody that has some experience with some different styles, this is a very, very good quality beer. When somebody walks through the door of a Brass Tap and they ask for a Pale Ale, 99 times out of 100, what they're asking for is either Sierra Nevada Pale Ale specifically or something akin to it. Very rarely will a patron of an American craft beer bar ask for a pale ale and really be talking about an English style pale ale. So,
yeah.
a great beer.
We could go on all day about this beer and about this brewery, but we won't. We'll sit here and drink it.
We'll enjoy it.
All
Cheers.
right, cheers.